It's Wednesday, March 22nd, 2017. It's time for WorthPoint Chats with Harry Rinker. I'm Greg Watkins, the editor at WorthPoint.com. And now let's talk with Harry, our expert on antiques and collectibles. How you doing, Harry?
Well, I had an interesting couple of days. I just flew in to my condo here in Altamont Springs, Florida. Lives in my condo here from Phoenix, where we'd been attending a board meeting. But I also got to spend some time with some collectors out there, an editor of a local newspaper, and also visit 4 antique malls. So I'm going to have a lot to talk about today based on what I saw.
Good.
Fun. And so we're sorry we're a little bit late here tonight, but except for one thing, I didn't check out the Google Hangouts, and Foxfire is having some problems with Google Hangouts tonight, so I had to go into Google Chrome, and now here we are up doing this.
Well, a little bit late,
now.
But it's okay.
We'll go a half an hour at least, but here it is. You know the old phrase, words come back to haunt you.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
All right. Well, as you know, I firmly contend that an antique is anything made before 1980.
Yes.
And thank goodness I do that. Otherwise, every antique mall I went into would have been loaded with junk. And so theoretically, you can say some of them had antiques in them.
Okay, so a lot of them.
Yeah, well, we talked a couple weeks ago about my experiences in Winter Haven down here in the group shop, well, the antique mall, but group shop type environment. And then this big house that was also a set of individual shop owners in there. And,
right, and you know, talking about things that were reproductions and fantasy pieces, but not actually antiques.
Well, the point was that most of the stuff was post 1950. Now, it's a real sad day when you go into an antique mall and the bulk of the stuff that you see, and I'm not talking, like 60% or 70%, we're talking 80% or more, is post 1950. Now that's getting dangerous because I was born before then. So I went and I saw 4 very distinct malls while I was in Phoenix. So I want to talk about my experiences in all of them. Probably take up most of the time this afternoon, although we do have an interesting object to talk about a little bit later too. And that is that the first mall I was in was a mall that's been around. Well, okay, I have to go back and backtrack here. It must be about 8 or 10 years since I've been to Phoenix. And when I go into a town, I keep track of all the antique malls I've been in. I write down their addresses and phone numbers and so forth. And to my shock, most of the malls on my list were gone, and individual shops, particularly in Glendale, Arizona, which had been a hotbed of, was an antiquing town. You know how you have these antiquing towns where there's a dozen shops or something. And that shocked me. What shocked me even more was that in the 1990s and early 2000s, Phoenix was at the center of the modernist movement, just at the very center of the whole movement. And it's all gone. It's like it didn't exist. And there is a shop called Do Diddy that moved 85 miles north of Phoenix and operates out as a warehouse and sells on the web, okay?
Yeah.
You can visit the warehouse and look at the stuff, but you have to be into modernism and you have to make that trek. But in terms of the metropolitan area of Phoenix, I didn't find Shaboom, which was one of my favorite modernist shops, and Retro Redo was another one. They're all gone. And not only that, but I didn't find the stuff in the antique malls I visited either, which was very strange. But anyway, the first mall I went to was Antique Trove. Now, Antique Trove was there when I was out there before, okay? In fact, all 3 of the 4 places were there when I was out there before, okay? So Antique Trove is one of these antique malls that, for want of a better term, you would call them stuff the booth malls, where you go in and there's so much crap in every booth, you can't go in and turn around. And the theory of the dealers there seems to be the more crap you put in the booth, the more likely you're to sell something. On the other hand, I think the real secret is the more likely somebody is to go in there and turn around and break something and then they have to buy it. but it was no. Have you've been in malls like that, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I mean, it was so, the booths were so stuffed that you couldn't actually see anything. It was just a mass of stuff. And, for a person who's in there looking for something specific, it could have been in there, hidden among all that stuff in the booth, and I didn't spot it. You can't shop it from a general point of view. You have to go there for something specific, and, you look at the booth real quick, and if you see it, fine. If you don't, you go on to the next booth and so forth. Well, I was just shocked by it all. And it wasn't like it was one booth. It was like it was every booth in this Antique Trove Mall. Like it was the display milieu of the mall, which just, I'm sorry, but and I know part of the theory is, the more you put in, the more likely you are to sell something. And there's also a group of mall dealers, especially at this mall, that apparently believe in the theory that their customers want a sense of discovery. They don't want to have it easy to find what they're looking for. Dumb. Okay? No.
Yeah.
So you may remember I was shocked by some of the pricing that I saw in Winter Haven when I was there at the malls. So I started to look at the pricing on the stuff in a lot of the booths at the Antique Trove, and much to my surprise, the pricing was fairly reasonable at about 2/3 of the booths. It was clearly evident that that the dealers wanted to sell something. They wanted to sell their merchandise. Now, reasonable though the prices may be, you had to really kind of hammer down. And what was, of course, shocking, as it's always to me, in one of the booths, there were some old cartoon characters, TV character stuff from the 50s, including the group of people from Pogo and that, Pogo and the Swamp, yes, and all the rest of that type of thing. Though they had some of the period figures in there. And in the old days, those were $65, $85 figures. You could buy them for $5 a piece. It was unbelievable. Nobody, and the reason is, I don't think the dealer knew what he had, and I don't think anybody else did either. Which just makes me feel so young that I know. But anyway, so then but on the whole, the prices were not bad. Then there were the overpriced booths, and there were a number of them. But what was interesting is what you could tell, and it's a phenomenon I should have realized, a number of old-time collectors that can't sell their stuff at auction because they'll take a beating, and they can't necessarily sell it on the internet or they'll take a beating, have apparently decided to rent booths and get rid of their stuff, right? Okay. But what prices do they have on it? Twice what they paid for everything, 3 times what they paid for everything. The prices are so unrealistic that it was unbelievable. Seriously, unbelievable how exorbitant the prices were. Now, if you don't know enough about the market, maybe you come in there and you find something, you say, oh, well, that looks interesting. I don't mind paying $200, $300, $400 for it. But the problem is, if you go on eBay, you can find it for $25 and $35. And that was true of the old guard that was still trying to get $100, $150 for Hummel figures, where you can go on on eBay and get them in the $25 to $35 range, even less sometimes. So I found a number of those kind of booths. What you don't see anymore is furniture, what they call brown goods. And when I was talking to my friend Jane Clark in Albuquerque the other week, and we were talking about what's selling in her mall down there in Albuquerque, she said, I can't sell brown goods, which is all that wonderful furniture from the 20s, 30s, 40s, the colonial revival styles, Chippendale, Hippo-White, Sheraton, Queen Anne, and even the early America, the 50s early America, couldn't sell any of it. And there wasn't much there. There were a couple of pieces of desks and so forth, and side tables, functional furniture. And so the feeling I got was that, and this is what concerns me, you can start asking yourself a question after you go through that mall. What's the difference between that mall and the same things offered at a Goodwill store or a thrift shop? Because I have to tell you, the only difference was they had higher prices for that stuff in the mall. Because I would suspect you could have found 50% or more of the stuff in that mall at thrift shops, seriously. So that was interesting. That was an interesting first visit. Now, I always wonder if you could have justifiable crime in the antique business.
I guess it depends on which crime it is, right?
Well, that's exactly right. Well, that's true too. But the Betty Laswell, who is the editor of the Country Register and the Arizona Country Register, a number of country registers by state, said, go look at the Scottsdale Marketplace, right? Mall.
Okay.
I did. If I would have had a firebomb, I'd have burned it to the ground. It was a decorator mall. I mean, it had container loads from England, Egypt, all over Europe. None of the pieces, period. They were all meant to look old. I mean, it was just for the look. The whole mall was devoted to look. Now, every once in a while, you'd find a couple of smalls that were there, okay? But the truth of the matter was that you couldn't trust anything in that mall. Not only was the old stuff not old, and old we know is a relative term, but the so-called period stuff wasn't period, but a lot of the decorative accessories were repros and copycats with no marking on them at all. You go in there and you'd find this big piece of furniture, like an armoire, okay? And it would say $1,800, or in some cases, $3,500. That's all it would have on the tag, the price. No description, no anything else, just the price. Well, as long as they put that on there, there's no fraud involved here, because they're not claiming it's old. But it's old. It's meant to look old. It's in a booth that's designed to loaded with antiques and so forth. And I was just, get out of here. Get out of here. Shut up, she said. You're talking too loud. People overhear what you're saying about this stuff. I just wanted to just shout at the top of my lungs. It's all a fraud. It's all a fraud. The difficulty is, it's not that there isn't a market for this type of stuff. I mean, this is what decorators sell their rich clients, because the rich clients are after the look. They're not after the authenticity. But the problem is that many of those clients buy it thinking it is authentic. I mean, the decorator doesn't happen to mention it. Oh, by the way, this looks old, but it was made 2 days ago in Egypt. And it was flown over by Air Express or something like that. But the thing is that I've had to appraise far too many homes that were done by decorators. And most auctioneers today won't touch a home that was done by a decorator. Because the problem is that the person who bought all this stuff thinking it's old hires you to appraise it or to sell it, and it doesn't bring anywhere near what they paid for it, and they think you're cheating them. They don't blame the decorator. The decorator never gets blamed for this kind of stuff. Excuse me. I'm telling you, that's not whiskey in there, but it should be when I talk about this subject. But the thing about it is that I was so appalled by that mall. I mean, I have to tell you, it's everything everything that I'm against in the antique trade. Now, I've been in decorator malls years ago, back in the 80s and 90s. One of them in Atlanta, where all the stuff in the mall was clean. I mean, it was expensive and it had decorator prices on it, but at least it was clean. I mean, if somebody buying it, they may be overpaying by twice, but the point of the matter is that they were buying something that was involved with antiques and collectibles. Well, my wife pulled me out of there real quick, and probably rightly so. So that was that. Now, we'll sidetrack. We won't go back to antique trade. We'll go back there in a few minutes. But then the next day, Betty Laswell came around, and we sat and talked about, developments in the trade out there and what's happening. And, it's the fight is constantly, how can we get young people, and how can we get young people involved? Well, she took me to a mall called Antiques on Central. And it is like I stepped back in the 1980s, because everything in that mall was clean. And everything in that mall was an antique before 1930 or older. And it was attractively displayed in cases and in booths where you just look, everything was clean. You could see what everything was. Now, here's the problem. All the people that were working there were my age. All the clients seemed to be my age. And all the pricing seemed to be for people who are, again, trying to sell stuff for what you get. I mean, I saw a piece of peach blow glass there with a $1,200 price tag. Yeah, I almost wanted to fall over laughing. Who's going to pay $1,200 for a piece of peach blow these days? I mean, seriously. And it was like that through the whole mall. There were some dealers that had decent pricing on stuff, but the bulk of the pricing was like you were back in the 1980s at an antique show, and those were the prices that were on the stuff. And but now I have to sidetrack. You know about serendipity in the business. You know, you're supposed to be there at the right time at the right moment. Two serendipity moments happened at the mall. I'm sitting there talking to the gal at the front table, and who comes up to me and says, "Harry Rinker." And it was Bob Page. Do you know who Bob Page is?
I know the guy who started. I can't place it.
Yeah, he's the guy who started Replacements Limited.
Oh, that's right.
That's right, yes, in Greensboro, North Carolina. Well, he and Alan were there buying up pottery and ceramics. They had several boxes full. They were spending a week to 2 weeks in Phoenix hitting the malls, and then they're going to truck it back to North Carolina. And they were buying really well. But what was interesting was I got there as they were finished buying. And Bob and I have to tell you, probably 3 of the funmost books I've ever did for Wallace Homestead were the 3 books I did on dinnerware, stemware, and flatware. You know, 500 top dinnerware patterns, 250 top stemware patterns, and so forth. And Bob Page and his group at Replacements Limited opened their archives to me and their entire database on the computer and everything else. And it was a wonderful experience. Well, it was like yesterday to see Bob again. He's active and so forth. But he says to me, "Harry," he said, "you know, business is really slowing down." And I kept thinking, "Bob, why are you here buying stuff?" But he can't resist it. He loves what he does, and good for him. I mean, he took an inch in our trade and made it work for him. And so it was fun to see Bob. That was the first serendipity moment. The second one is I go and turn the case, and there is the little plaque that was above my bed as a kid, which was a kid praying on the bed, you know, and it says, "Now I lay me down to sleep, I pray my Lord my soul to keep." And I didn't know what happened to and I said, "I have to have this." But here's what I did. I said, "If it's more than $20, I don't care. I don't have to have it that bad." It was $18. So I was able to do it. But it was fun walking through the mall because Betty was with me and we'd see something and I said, "Oh, that's going to be $225. And I turned the tag over, it's $225. And I did it a couple more times and Betty says, "How do you know all this stuff?" I said, "Because I was there." I remember all this stuff. But it was a treat because inside the mall were 2 ladies that took some of the courses with me back in the 1990s at the Institute.
Really?
Yes. And they you know, they just, "Oh, you had such a," you know, nothing like flattering me. "You had such an impact on our life and stuff." But the thing is, there they were holding the fort against every trend in the trade. Okay. But at least they were there. And how much longer they'll be in business, gosh only knows. I mean, I would like to think they're going to be in business another 20 or 30 years. But by 20 or 30 years, everybody, including them, are going to be dead. So I don't know. But it was like in the middle of nowhere was this bastion of good stuff. Period stuff, almost all of it clean, you know, almost nothing else. And then on Sunday, I got to visit my good friend, Bob and Darlene Erickson. They used to be based out of Seattle, but now they moved to Arizona into a 4,000 square foot home up by Carefree. We won't go into that any further than that. My wife now, who didn't ever want to move to Arizona, said, "Well, if you could afford a house like that, we could move here." And I said, "That's good, because if we could afford a house like that, maybe we would move there, but we can't." But anyway, they took us over to the Brass Armadillo Mall in there. Now, the last time I'd been to the Brass Armadillo Mall over in Phoenix, the highlight of my visit was the 15 cases filled with Beanie Babies. Now, I'm delighted to say that I found only 1 case this time filled with Beanie Babies. But what I didn't find were antiques, and what I didn't find was sensible pricing. It was really strange. I mean, I just felt like I really was in a thrift shop. And I also, now this was equally true of Antique Trove, but not to the extent of as the Brass Armadillo, but it was filled with reproductions and none of it marked. And I saw some of the fake Roseville there. But now remember, it's been how many years, 25, 30 years since that fake Roseville hit the market? How many people would know it except us old timers who know what to look for in the pieces, right?
Right.
And, you know, when they remolded them, the way the Chinese avoided getting in trouble with the government was it used to say USA on the bottom. They took that off, but they left all the other identification on the bottom. And then they used a slightly different making process for them than historically. But I mean, I have to tell you, I was just flabbergasted to see it. And it really was sad, but the amount of reproductions, not one of them marked everywhere. And junk. Well, you know, today's junk. So I took 10, 15 minutes to watch people coming to buy, right? Well, there were no collectors coming to buy, none. There were people buying stuff to reuse it. And that's what Barbara Lensel told me, that's the greatest sale market right now. I'm sure it is at the Trove too. People buying stuff in our field because it's cheaper than new. Glassware, Chinaware. You know, they can get it cheaper here than they can get at other places, which is fine. The antique business always lived in cheaper than new. And then, but I was also able to use one of my favorite tag theories on a tag. You know how when you go to a flea market or you go to an antique mall, you look at how new is the tag? Or the corollary is how faded is the tag?
Yes, has a yellow
tag, almost nothing where you can barely read the price. You know that item has been there for a while, especially if it's inside. I found some nearly invisible tags on some stuff. And it was a little discouraging to me, the whole thing. But the other problem, too, was the fact that in Antique Trove, remember how appalled I was in Winter Park at the one mall with all their big discount signs?
Yes, right.
Almost every booth at the Antique Trove had discount signs too. And deep discounts, 25, 35%. Now, you know, they got clever there. They said winter sale. And I'm thinking, well, it's possibly they could not be lying because it was March. The day was I there. What's today? The day is the
22nd. Spring started yesterday.
That's right. So, and I was there on Saturday, so theoretically it could be still a winter sale. But I figure as soon as that's over, the spring sale signs will come out as well.
Maybe they've decided that the prices are too high, but it's just cheaper to write one sign that says 30% off than to reprice every item that they've got.
You would think that, wouldn't you? But I will say this: the following was true. Antique Trove, which was a big shop, only had about a half dozen empty booths, which surprised the heck out of me. What he told me was that Betty Laswell from Country Register down there was that after the recession, everybody thought there'd be less dealers. And there's more in Phoenix than there ever were. Now, I don't know if that phenomenon is true everywhere else. I doubt it. But at least it's true in Phoenix. The Brass Armadillo, 8 to 10% of its cases and booths stuff. I mean, it was clear. You know, it's clear when they spread something out into an empty booth to make it look like there's something there, right?
Yeah.
But it was a shocker to me, seriously, in there. Now, my friend, Bob Erickson, who took Linda and his wife, Darlene, he collects fishing lures. And he did find a case of fishing lures there, and he knows that business inside and out, right?
Right.
Find a couple lures, and he wound up buying them. But here's the interesting aside to it. He is now getting on, and he's now 73, he's be 74 this year. He says, time for me to sell my stuff. And he, in Seattle, he used to have cases at malls. And he'd make enough money to pay for the rent and get some money to buy some more goodies. He wasn't like he's supporting himself on it, but he had a good time with it. He's convinced now that neither eBay or malls are the answer for him. You know what he's doing? He's going to fishing shows at fishing collectors, the specialized things. And this gets right back to the niche concept on the internet. The market today is niched. People specialize. And that's what the specialization and the internet, you say, that's fabulous. That means all the fishing lure collectors can get together in one place and so forth. Yes, they can. But it decreases the whole general concept that the antiques and collectible is a community of a whole rather than a million different parts. And I think it is a community today of a million different parts. That's one of our reasons we're struggling so much with this. Well, speaking of struggling, we should at least take a look at one object before we throw in the towel tonight.
Okay.
No, well, hey, no. And here it is. Now, let's put the object up first.
You want the object?
Yeah, no, I want the object that we're going to talk about that came in.
Yeah.
Someone sent me this and said, I acquired this and it's in really great shape and we've had it in the family for 20, 30 years and I'd like to sell it. What can I get for it? Right? Now.
Well, did he ask what is it or did he tell you what it was?
No. Don't get ahead of me here. You take all the mystery out of this conversation.
Okay. You spin your yarn. I'm going to sit back.
I sent this object to Greg. And so before we got ready to go on the air tonight, I said to Craig, well, do you find any of these in the Worthopedia? And he said, no. And I said, no. I said, I used this object in one of my antique columns and in one of my What You Got Rinker on Collectibles columns. I said, I found a ton of this stuff on there. He says, well, what is it? And here's the name of the game. It's like those pogo figures I talked about, at the other mall. If you don't know what you're looking at, you charge $5. Well, in this case, this is an African tribal apron. Okay. And once I told Greg to type in African tribal aprons, right?
Right.
It's there. Now, these things are still being made and sold to the tourist trade. But there you can see, and here they are. Let's go back to the first one. They come from a specific tribe in Africa. There you are. The Nebeli tribe in the Transvaal, married warrior apron. And there's a number of variations of married warrior aprons. But look at the handwork on that, right?
Yeah.
And look what it's sold for. $161.
$137.
That was in 2012. So what we're going to do is we're going to do what Harry likes to do and what Greg likes to do too. We are going to test this market in terms of modern sales. So we're going to rearrange the listings here by date with the most recent one first. Right?
Right.
I didn't say we were going to do that, but we're going to do that, right?
Uh-huh. So,
well, first of all, the first thing you'll notice is that there isn't very many of these for sale. But no, wait, but moving up, no, not there. Keep going down. Now there's a Zulu one in line 2. See where it says Zulu beaded married woman's apron. Now, the Zulus are from that same tribe, $99. Okay. Now, suppose you had a vintage one, say that's 50 years old, but it looks kind of like this one. Or why would you pay $300-$400 for it if you can get one for $99? Now let's keep going down. I think we'll hit some other ones here. Well, the first thing you notice is we go down, right? You don't see a lot of these, right?
Right.
You saw more of them back in the earlier period than you do now. Stop. Now there's one, but where are we there on the one on the right?
This one here?
Yeah, that one. That one I think sold for a little. Let's see what that one sold for here.
141 and also in 2012.
Right. But now we're back to 2012 again. So well, look what happened. A lot of this stuff gets hot. And why? Because my guess is that somebody wrote an article or it was in some magazine or maybe National Geographic or something. And there was an article and somebody who said, we need one of those. And so they went up there and bought them. Now, there's that word vintage, which means we have no idea how old it is, except it was made before yesterday. But let's see what else we have here, because we're going to get down and find one or two, I think, that are almost the exact match to the one that we had there. Keep going there, buddy. Don't give up on me here. Keep going.
Oh, this is the end for under these search words.
Oh, is that the full count of things?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, we may have to. Well, all right, then try African NDEEBELE apron. Put that NDEBELE in there, and we'll see if we can come up with some more. But see, that one only brought 175 too. All right, now there's one on the left. See the one on the left? That's not unlike the one that's there. And that's sold for $135 again, right?
Right. But that was last November.
Okay. But you know what? So here's a person, they've had this thing, it's been in the family brings it back, it goes down through a generation or two, and what do you got? Not a lot of money, right?
Right.
Because here is beaded apron, oldest one I've seen. Well, this guy must have bad eyesight. But 50s, 60s, and that's the other one I think is more like 60s, 70s. But the thing is that you have to have a market for stuff, and clearly the market is not in the States. Now, I don't know if they do any better overseas or not, but the whole point of the matter is that they're just not there. Let's just look at one or two more here, because it was kind of fun to research these, actually. Because the person had no idea what it was or where it was from, and because I asked the right couple of research words, why. Well, now range it by price. Can you do that here?
Yep.
On these? Let's see just price-wise if we can get a hit on one that sold for a little bit more. Oh.
There's no picture on this one.
Right, but some of the ones, Jim meant out. There's no picture in that one, but somehow I brought $1,500.
That one sold through Rago.
Right, and here's the name of the game. It's on eBay, right?
Yeah.
All right. If you throw the stuff on eBay, you might occasionally get some. And look how intricate that one is, right?
Yeah, and this one got $1,200 last year.
On eBay, right? But sometimes you've got to put these at places like Rago and some of these other other regional houses, and people will buy them because they're not used to seeing them, and they'll say, "Wow, that's really decorative, and look at all that beadwork and look at all that handwork. It's got to be $1,200, right?"
Yeah.
And I'm never quite sure how they were, these aprons, but we won't go into that. Let's look at a few more here. So there were some expensive ones, but then you get down, go down to the third one in on that line. And now you're down to $199 real quick. See it?
Yes.
And so, if you can market hype some, or there's some unique feature about some of them, you can get more money for them. But that's true actually in the whole of the antiques and collectibles trade. It's all about market hype as well as what the object is. So it's kind of fun, but hey, if you want to collect them and you're only willing to spend $300, you can get a nice collection together in a hurry, right? That's per unit, of course.
You would think, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, they're pretty colorful. And judging from the looks at them, most of them have never been worn, which makes me suspect that they were largely done to be sold to the tourist trade as opposed to be worn ceremonially. I don't know if there'd be extra value in something where the back of the apron showed a lot of use. We won't go into that. Okay. Oh, that one even had some damage. We still brought $150. All right. Well, anyway, so I had a wonderful antiquing adventure this week, as we talked about, and I'll probably stew over it some more and maybe talk even a little bit more about it next week. But we have other things to talk about too, which gets us around to a very important point, and that is this: we thrive. No, actually, we beg our viewers to turn in their questions to us, right?
Right.
And I'm a little disappointed because I like talking about what's going on in the trade, and I've been getting some very interesting emails and stuff from people that listen to my radio show, What You Got on Sunday mornings from 8 to 10 on PCNlive.com, and about what's going on in trade, because I wrote a series of columns recently about changes in the last 5 years. But what would you like us to talk about? What subject would you like us to explore? Send us your point of view, and we'll take it off from there. Community@worthpoint.com. Community@worthpoint.com. Say, hey, I'm writing because we listened to WorthPoint Chats with Harry Rinker videos, and we'd like him to talk about this. Or what about an object that you might have you'd like us to talk about? Same deal. When you are sending a query about the object, though, please be as descriptive as possible. Size, markings, the provenance of the piece, how you acquired it. If you bought it, what you pay for it. I mean, come on, there's no sense being modest about this. What you paid for it's what you paid for it. And a bunch of pictures. The more pictures you can send, the more we can analyze it. Even though we may have a few pictures in the file, we love to get stuff, because part of the WorthPoint Chats are to educate people. And you may notice when we were talking about the blanket, we covered a lot of points that related to issues far beyond that individual, apron that we were talking about. And the same way when I was talking about what I was seeing in the antique shops and so forth, it goes with that as well. Well, all right. Well, I keep thinking of the car talk guys. You wasted another perfectly good half an hour. But no, you can't waste a half an hour watching these videos. You can only learn from them.
That's right.
And so we want to thanking Greg for staying. Now, one final thing. If I seem lively, it's not because I'm drinking caffeine, which I am. But one of the smart things I did out in Arizona was kept my body on East Coast time. So I would go to bed at 9 o'clock at night and get up at 4 and 5 in the morning out there.
Oh, that's good. No jet lag then.
No jet lag at all. No, I'm ready to go. No. Anyway,
what's in that mug?
Fun, sir.
All right, Harry. Well, until next week, then we'll say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.